Bizworld. Malaysia's economy expanded by 2.9% in the second quarter of this year, supported by improving labour market and the continued increase in domestic demand and tourism activities. According to Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Muhammad Mahidin, the economic growth moderated during the quarter, partly due to weaker external demand, lower commodity production and high base effect from the same quarter last year. With GDP growth in the first quarter at 5.6%, the average growth for the first half of the year stood at 4.25%. GDP by production approach saw growth in services, construction and manufacturing, while agriculture, mining and quarrying experienced a decline. In the meantime, the central bank said the country's economy remains on track to achieve a growth of between 4 and 5% this year. Headline inflation is also set to average between 2.8 and 3.8% due to elevated core inflation and gradual subsidy rationalisation. The government needs to redirect more resources in order to ensure that the domestic growth engine continue to grow and be able to offset the global weaknesses. Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad's chief economist Muhammad Afzanizam Abdul Rashid stated that the easing of economic growth in the second quarter shows that the Malaysian economy is susceptible to the weakening demand from abroad.
The onus now is on the domestic factor to continue to grow at a robust rate. We should expect infrastructure projects will be accelerated and monetary policy will remain accommodative, and therefore we shall expect OPR to be retained at 3% throughout the year.
The moderate growth was also offset by growth in private consumption, gross fixed capital and stronger government consumption. Muhammad Afzanizam said the country is expected to see further moderation in terms of global demand due to the struggling Chinese economy and the global tightening of monetary conditions. In the meantime, the ringgit depreciated by 5.8% in the second quarter of 2023, but has appreciated by 1.1% so far in the third quarter. This amid growing expectations that monetary policy tightening in the United States is nearing its end. Bank Negara Governor Dato' Abdul Rashid Ghaffur said global developments continue to be the dominant factor in driving domestic financial conditions during the quarter. He added that the global financial market sentiments were dampened by concerns over a slower global economic outlook and weaker than expected rebound in China's economy. Earlier, the ringgit opened higher today against the US dollar at 4.6355 against the greenback.
This week on Money Matters, we'll talk about the key elements of a successful economy, how to position itself as one of the 30 economic powerhouses by setting the right tone towards building a better Malaysia. Join us with Khazanah National's Managing Director, Dato' Amirul Faisal Wan Zahir, this Saturday, 5 p.m. on TV3 and live HD stream on Tonton.
Moving on, Malaysia's trade performance plunged last month amidst an increasingly challenging global economy. July's trade contracted 14.4% to 216.4 billion ringgit compared to last year. Exports, meanwhile, recorded a decrease of 13.1%, while imports declined by 15.9%. Malaysia's trade balance, however, remained in surplus with 17.1 billion ringgit. The slower exports was contributed mainly from high deficit to Singapore of 4.4 billion ringgit, followed by Japan, Thailand and the United Arab Emirates. The main sectors that attributed to the fall were from petroleum products, palm oil, agricultural products and liquefied natural gas. Total trade exports, imports and trade surplus during the first 7 months also registered a contraction compared to last year. China's Evergrande Group has filed for bankruptcy protection in a US court as anxiety grows over Beijing's worsening property crisis and weakening economy. The once China's top-selling developer has sought protection under Chapter 15 of the US Bankruptcy Code, which shields non-US companies that are undergoing restructurings from creditors that hope to sue them or tie up assets in the US. The filing is procedural in nature, but the world's most indebted property developer with more than $300 billion in liabilities has to do it as part of a restructuring process under US law. Evergrande has become the poster child of the country's unprecedented debt crisis in the property sector, which accounts for roughly a quarter of the economy after facing a liquidity crunch in mid-2021. And that's all the time we have for Bizworld this time around. I'm Muhammed. Hamdan. Thanks for investing your time with us.